Do you know what I was thinking about this morning? I was looking at my old trading journal from 2017, I think it was, and then again from 2021. And I kept seeing the same mistakes over and over and over. Different coins, different prices, but same stupid decisions. And then I realized something that basically made my stomach drop. People would be making those exact same mistakes right now. And they're about to get absolutely destroyed. Not because they're bad traders, but because nobody's telling them what actually happens when the music stops. Right now, everyone is calling this pullback as a gift. They're screaming, buy the dip. What else are they saying? Alt season is coming, all that stuff. And you know what? They might be right. But I've been here before and I've seen what happens when alt season actually hits. When Binance goes offline right when you need it most, when your portfolio goes from 6 figures to, well, let's just say the ride down is a lot faster than the ride up. So I thought today what I'm going to do is I'm going to share 5 lessons that literally saved my trading career. Not the pretty lessons, the ugly ones. The ones that cost me real money to learn. Because right now, while everyone's loading up for the next epic alt season that's supposedly coming, or we kind of hope is coming, right? You have a choice. You can either learn from my expensive mistakes now, or you can pay for your own education when the chaos actually hits. And trust me, when alt season really kicks off, my tuition was way more expensive than yours needs to be. So let's get into it. If you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Be sure to hit that like button, hit subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and let's go with lesson 1, which is always use a stop loss. Let me tell you about the moment that almost ended my trading career before really it even started. It was back in 2017. Bitcoin was creating new highs like literally every day, and the altcoin mania was absolutely insane. I'm talking about coins doing 50%, 100% moves in a single day. Everyone was making money until they weren't. I had a long position on altcoin. I can't remember what altcoin it was now, but it was absolutely ripping. I was in a huge trade, and even though my account size at the time was small, I was making money, and that made me feel like a genius, And then the volume hit. And when I say volume, I mean the kind of trading volume that breaks things. Millions of people all trying to get onto exchanges at the exact same time, all trying to buy or sell or just to manage their positions. And then Binance went offline, just like that, gone. The biggest, most reliable exchange in the world, and I couldn't get in. Everything went offline at one point or another, even Coinbase. It was like the entire crypto infrastructure just collapsed under the weight of everyone trying to use it all at once. This didn't happen once, it happened very, very often in the last phase of the cycle. And here's the kicker. My position was getting liquidated whilst I was getting locked out of the exchange. Now, I had a small account, but it was all I could afford to put into crypto. And here I was with absolutely no control over my own trade. And I'm sitting there just knowing that my account balance is just going to disappear. And there was absolutely nothing I could do about it. Why? Because I was so far up on that trade that I didn't think I needed a stop loss. I thought I would be fine. But here's what I learned afterwards, and this is the part that most people never hear about. When Binance came back online, they had a compensation program. So if you got liquidated during the downtime and you had a stop loss in place before the crash, they would compensate you for your losses. And many exchanges did that too, because exchanges can see every single order that you place. They know exactly what your risk management looked like before their system went down. So what was happening back then was that if they could see that you had a stop loss and that you were actually trying to protect your trades and have good risk management, most of those exchanges would make you whole when their infrastructure failed you. The problem was if you didn't have a stop loss, basically that means you're happy to take the risk. So they're not going to compensate you for that. You took the risk, right? And so I learned that the expensive way. I didn't have a stop loss on that trade because I was riding the wave and I was feeling invincible, And in the end, that cost me about 70% of my portfolio in a single day, So it was painful. And right now, while everyone's loading up for this epic alt season that, let's face it, we all hope is coming, this is exactly what you need to understand. When the mania hits, the infrastructure is going to buckle again. It always does. It doesn't mean that the exchange is dodgy. Let me tell you why it happens. Basically, all exchanges, they pay for a certain amount of bandwidth, right? I don't know what the technical terms are, but let's just call it bandwidth. But they pay for an amount that is more than sufficient for their average daily trading volume. And so that gets it by when the conditions are normal, when price is just being normal and there's, no super hype excitement going on, the exchange will operate just fine. But when something crazy happens and everybody rushes to the exchange to do something, that causes a big spike in the, I'm going to call it bandwidth. Like, if that's not a technical term, you know what I'm trying to say, right? But it causes this extreme amount of traffic all onto their exchange at the one time, and the amount of bandwidth that they're paying for can't handle it. And so that's why it temporarily goes offline. Doesn't mean that the exchange is dodgy. It's just this extreme amount of volume. No exchange can handle it. Like I said, Binance, it happened too often, and they're like one of the best exchanges in the world, Coinbase too, all the time it happened. And so basically, they don't pay for this extra amount of bandwidth to have that 24/7 because it doesn't happen all the time. It's kind of random. And so it's a bit of a wasted expense for them to always pay for this super high bandwidth. And therefore, when the unexpected volume comes in and everybody rushes to use the exchange, what they're paying for right now can't handle it. And then those exchanges go offline. So the moral of the story is that you need to set your stop losses at the same time that you enter your trades, before there's any chaos, before there's volume spikes, before you can't get into your exchange to save yourself. Because when alt season really kicks off, the difference between having a stop loss and not having one, it's not about your trade. It's about whether the exchange will even help you if their system fails. So don't learn this lesson the way that I did. Trust me, my tuition was way too expensive. Lesson 2. Now, this kind of ties directly into lesson 1, but there's a bit more. It's about spreading risk across multiple exchanges. So you'll notice that on this channel, I give you many exchange options. There's 2 reasons why I do that, but just listen up because the second reason applies to you. The first reason is there's different exchanges are available in different countries. We have a global audience on this channel, and so I can't personally keep up with which exchanges work in which country according to who's watching the channel at the time. So that's why I have a few exchanges that I work with that I personally trade on, and they're just options for you. Like, whatever works for you in your country, feel free to use it. That's not the main reason though. The main reason is risk management. If one of those exchanges goes down when I really need to manage my trade, another one might stay up. So it's a personal strategy for me. I always trade the one trade that I want to take on multiple exchanges. As an example, let's just say I want to go long on Bitcoin. Instead of just picking one exchange to go long and putting $1,000 on it, I will choose 3 exchanges and put 333 as an example, right? So I'm taking the same trade, but I'm spreading it across 3 exchanges. And the reason is because I learned from the past cycles when exchanges were often going offline, and it wasn't that they were dodgy, it was a volume thing. So it's unlikely that all exchanges will go offline at the exact same time. So for me, it's like, okay, well, as long as I can get on to 2 out of the 3, I can manage those trades. And if the other one, whatever happens to it, is not really going to be so bad. So let me show you an example of this. So right now you can see here, this is Solana. If you've watched this channel, then you know that I've talked about this trade for a while. And yesterday it came into my area of interest here. And so this is where I opened the trade, and I chose to open it on Bitfinex Exchange and Weeks. And I also have Solana on BitGet, but it's a long-term trade. And that one was open prior to this bounce anyway. So what that means is that if this trade ends up playing out, and let's just say super high volume comes in, if I can't get onto one of these exchanges to take profit or move my stop loss or whatever, I'll be able to at the very least get onto one or the other and manage the trade. Lesson 3 is don't chase every moonshot promise. Okay, this one, it kind of hits close to home because I got sucked in just like everybody else does. Picture this, it's 2021, everything's pumping. My YouTube feed is absolutely flooded with these thumbnails. You know the ones I'm talking about, the big green arrows pointing up, massive text saying 1000x potential or ETH killer with some random coin just plastered all over it. At first, I'm like smart about it, right? Like I watch a few videos. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's interesting research. No worries. And I kind of move on. But then one of those coins actually does like a 20x, and suddenly every single one of these YouTubers look like a genius. So what do? I don't want to miss out, right? So I start buying not just one coin, not just two. I'm talking every single next Moonshot coin that crossed my timeline. I jumped in. Why? Because I thought, well, what if this is the next Pepe? What if it's the next Dogecoin? What if I miss the trade of the cycle? And before I knew it, I had a portfolio that looked like you were in a zoo. Like, I'm not even kidding. I counted at one point, my portfolio had 47 different altcoins. 47 different altcoins. Now, here's what nobody tells you about having 47 altcoins when alt season gets really manic. You can't manage that. It's literally impossible. You've got coins that are pumping 30% while something else is dumping 20%. And you're sitting there trying to like flick through all your charts, trying to figure out, where do I take profits? What do I hold? What do I need to cut loose? And they're across all these different exchanges, and it's manic, you know? And when that peak formation comes in, and it always comes in, you've got maybe like a few hours, sometimes just minutes to make the exit decision. But you can't exit 47 positions intelligently in that time frame. Like, you just can't. So you know what happens? You freeze. You tell yourself, oh, I'll sell tomorrow. I'll sell on the next lower high or something like that. Or you just convince yourself that it's just a pullback. And before you know it, you're holding bags on 40 plus coins for the next 3 years. Now, look, I get it. Right now, while everyone's accumulating everything they can get their hands on, it feels like you're missing out if you're not buying every single opportunity that gets shilled to you. But here's what I learned. It's way better to go heavier on 8 to 10 altcoins that you can actually research, understand, and manage than to spread yourself thin across 50 coins, hoping that one of them becomes a moonshot. So have your core portfolio, let's say 10 coins max. It's got to be what you can manage though, right? And it's got to be what you really believe in and you can monitor properly. And then keep separate funds aside for those degen plays. You can play the random low cap meme coin thing if you want to, but just keep it separate from your serious money, because when alt season really kicks off and everything starts moving at light speed, you want to be managing a portfolio, not a crypto zoo like I had, right? Trust me, your stress levels and your bank account will thank you for it. Well, your crypto account, we should say. So don't let FOMO turn you into a bag holder. Be a strategist. Now, lesson 4 is the biggest one, and it's actually a personal message to my private community, but it applies to all of you, but especially to my private community. And that is, take chances on scary dips. Now, this only applies to a bull market, obviously, but in a bull market, when price dips, most people get really, really scared to buy, because what tends to happen is analysts on X or YouTube or whatever start to say it's going to go much lower than what the price is. And so that freaks people out. And look, at the end of the day, they might be right. Like, price might dip and it might not bounce immediately. It may actually go lower, but they also may not be right, you know? So always have your zones that you're willing to act, like I just showed you with Solana. And then when price gets to the zone, if it meets your entry requirements, take the chance on it. Because what if that is the chance and then you hesitated and then it takes off and now you're left sitting there going, I was right and I didn't act, and you just have this paralysis, you know, and then you feel bad. As long as you have good risk management, you can take chances. That's the point of having good risk management. And just know and tell yourself that if you're wrong in this zone, like as an example again, let me just go back quickly to Solana, because in this trade here, I might be wrong, right? The price has come into my first liquidation zone, but as you can see, there are 2 more down here. So I might be wrong. This has not had a strong bounce yet. But what if I'm right and I didn't take the chance? You know, now, if I end up stopped out of this trade because I am in fact wrong, I will lose 1% of my account balance because I have good risk management. If I turn out to be right, I will make money. Great. Now, if I'm wrong and I lose that 1%, it's actually not an issue because I already have my next zone marked that I will be looking to play again. And if it comes down into that zone, well, now I'm going to have a better risk to reward, right? Because the price is lower, but my target doesn't change. So let me just show you quickly as an example. If I entered here and my stop loss was under the liquidation zone, and let's just say my target is only to resistance. Let's say that's a 4-to-1 risk to reward trade. Now, if I'm wrong and I get stopped out, I'm now down 1% and I have my next zone. So now I go in, let's keep the stop loss exactly the same. And now the target doesn't change, right? So now I'm at a 6.2-to-1 risk to reward. That means I'm actually going to make more money on this trade than even if I was right on this trade, because a 6-to-1 risk to reward minus the 1% I lost is a 5-to-1 risk to reward. So that's 5 times my risk, whereas the first trade was only 4 times my risk. So it's actually a better opportunity. But the thing is, if I wait for it and price doesn't come down there, then I make nothing. Let's look at this example as well. I took this Pengu trade. Now, again, if you watch this channel, you know that I've been hunting this opportunity, right? Because this leads to a very big trade. And I ended up taking the position on Weeks last night. Why? Because the trade came into my liquidation zone. Now, could I be wrong? Absolutely. There's a big chance that I could be wrong on this because there's more liquidity down below. And when I mark this out as a flag, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 touches. Usually you get 5, then a higher low, right? Or it could even be a double bottom, or it could even be a lower low before it breaks out. So worst case scenario, I'm targeting down here for this at 0.0266 for an entry, worst case on Pengu. But what if it doesn't, right? Like what if this is the low and the next thing we get is a higher low? At least I'm in the trade. And again, I have good risk management. So should this trade not play out, first of all, I have the opportunity to cut the trade because it has moved out away and it's now retracing back. So I may cut the trade early, or it just hits my stop loss, worst case scenario, and I lose 1%. Again, it's not going to phase me because I have my plan in advance. And worst case scenario, I think it's going to come down into this zone and I will just try again. Now, actually, while we're talking about taking chances with this Pengu trade on Weeks, this is perfect timing because they have a welcome bonus going on right now, but this bonus ends tomorrow. So here's what they're doing for new users only. I mean, brand new, like never had an account before. First, if you download the Weeks app and then when you make your first deposit for futures trading, they give you a 100 position airdrop. So basically, if you deposit $500, you're essentially trading with 1,000. If you deposit 1,000, you're trading with 2,000, so on and so forth. It's kind of like they're doubling your buying power right off the bat. And then on top of that, users who join Weeks using the link in the description of this video also get a VIP2 trading fee discount. And that's equivalent to about 25% off trading fees. It's really massive. But like I said, the ETH airdrop offer ends tomorrow, like actually tomorrow. And they send the rewards within 72 hours after you've completed the task. So you're not waiting around forever. Just make sure that when you go to the link in the description that you read through all the terms. And look, whether you're planning to trade or not, it's actually the perfect opportunity to practice exactly what I'm talking about in this video, taking the calculated chances, getting comfortable with risk management, testing out strategies with essentially house money. And like I said, the link is in the description down below. If you're going to try this anyway, you may as well use it. And speaking of which, that brings me to the final lesson. And this one might save you more money than probably all the other lessons combined. It is about selling on the way up instead of trying to time the actual top. And honestly, I'm really grateful that I learned this lesson early in my journey because I learned this from my trading mentor because I watched so many people get destroyed by not following this one rule. So when I first started trading seriously, my mentor told me something that didn't really make sense to me at the time because I was greedy, but now it does. He said, always leave a little on the table, but take profits on the way up. Don't try to pick the top. And I remember thinking, well, but what if it keeps going higher? And what if I miss out on the biggest gains? You know, I wanted to make money after all. But he just looked at me and he said, you would rather sell too early than too late. Trust me on this one. And man, am I grateful for that advice because over the years, being part of many various trading communities before I started my own, I watched that same pattern play out over and over and over again with everybody that was in these communities. So let's go back again to Bitcoin in 2021. So we were here, we were in this 50 to 60K region and the trading groups that I was in, they were absolutely on fire with predictions, right? Everybody was saying Bitcoin's going to 100K, 150. Some people even thought it was going to go to 200K. And I was sitting there watching these traders who, they were smart, like they were experienced people, but they were holding their positions because they believed in their targets. And when Bitcoin hit 65K right here for the first time, nobody in these groups sold. And I mean, like, why would they? Because that was only halfway to their target, right? But then this happened and Bitcoin crashed from 65 back to 30K. That's a 50% drop, right? And so I'm watching people in these chats day after day telling themselves it's just a pullback, it's not over yet. And I mean, look, at the end of the day, lucky for them that they were right, because that time it was actually a pullback and then Bitcoin came back and it just by a smidge broke 65K again. And this was literally the first time in crypto history that we'd seen a double top pattern to end the cycle. Usually it was a blow off top and then it's over. And by the way, this here last cycle is a sign of a maturing market. So if you're waiting for a blow off top before you sell, that might be a thing of the past, but that's a lesson for another day. Anyway, did people sell the second time? No, because now everyone was even more convinced that we were going to 100K. They said the timing is perfect. The technicals were so bullish. This was just a pullback. Now it's like epic. There's no chance that we're not going to go to 100K. And all the same six-figure targets came flooding back into group chats and social media and all that type of stuff. But at the end of the day, this was the due date for the cycle end. You know, it was the due 2021 November was the due date for the 4-year cycle end. And so Bitcoin did top out 67K and then it crashed all the way in the end back to like 15,600. And I watched these traders, like people I'd seen trading with, turning into bag holders for the next 3 years. And that's when what my mentor used to tell me really clicked. You know, whilst everyone else was holding for those crazy targets, I'd been scaling out, taking profits sometimes at a 2x or a 3x, like nothing crazy, you know, but I was gradually reducing my position as the prices went higher. I wasn't trying to be greedy. I wasn't trying to catch the top. I was just following what I'd been taught, which is secure profits on the way up, leave a little on the table in case it keeps running. And I do that to this day. Let me show you. So this is my Bitcoin trade. Now, like I said, I've taken this on multiple exchanges, but this is just one example that I want to show you. So as you can see, there is my entry price, right? 79K was when I took this long position on Bitcoin. And if you look over on the right side, you can see that it says realized P&L. That's the profit that I have taken from this trade without actually closing the trade fully. I still have 26K-ish left in the trade. Now, right now, Bitcoin's pulling back, right? So if Bitcoin continues to pull back, or let's just say this is the pullback and that's kind of it, but wherever it pulls back, at the point that I feel like the pullback has bottomed out, I now have that extra 16K that I can put back into that trade or into a new Bitcoin trade and ride the next wave. But imagine if I hadn't have taken anything at all, Bitcoin, what's the price of Bitcoin right now? At the time of me filming this, Bitcoin is 113K, right? Down from 124. So imagine if I'd have got that trade at 70 whatever K, not taken anything at 124, and now it was all the way back to 113, how would I feel? You know, I'd feel like I've given back all that profit for nothing, but I don't have to feel that way because I've secured the profit at the top. I can wait for the pullback on the provision that you think the cycle isn't over, of course. Fingers crossed, because I want to put that back in. But anyway, whatever. Let's just pretend it's not for now, even though it's a double top on the daily. Let's just pretend. But moral of the story is I now have those profits that I can put back into another trade because why? Because I took profit on the way up as opposed to waiting for the top and then panic selling out. So I hope you see that that's the difference. I'm not trying to guess where the absolute top will be. I'm not waiting for some magical price target that some influencer predicted. I'm securing profits now while the market is still fairly strong. Pulling back now doesn't feel great, but it's still fairly strong. And I was able to sell into strength instead of panic, because I'll be able to put that money back in the panic, right? Because when alt season really kicks off and everything starts going parabolic, you're going to be tempted to hold on for absolutely crazy targets. But just remember what I learned from watching those trading communities. The people who make the most money aren't the ones who predict the top perfectly. They're the ones who take profits consistently on the way up. So your lesson here is scale out on the way up, take some money off the table, secure your bag. Your mentor taught, community tested strategy will save you from becoming another cautionary tale in someone else's trading group. That was a bit harsh. Anyway, look, here's the thing nobody wants to admit. The market isn't trying to help you get rich. It's designed to separate you from your money in the most creative ways. But here's what the market doesn't know about you. You're different now. You've got the playbook. You know about stop losses when exchanges crash. You know about spreading risk across multiple exchanges. You're not chasing those ridiculous YouTube thumbnails anymore. Well, I mean, at least I hope you won't. And while everyone else is running around collecting random altcoins like their Pokemon cards, you'll be building a portfolio you can actually manage. So while everybody else is holding bags and hoping for miracles, you hopefully will be taking profits on the way up. And when the next pullback comes, because even in alt season, they will always come, you won't be paralyzed like everyone else. You'll be ready to take that calculated chance while they're screaming that the party is over. This pullback, it's just the warm-up. This is your moment to get positioned correctly before the real show starts. And now, hopefully, you know exactly how to do that. The only question left is, are you going to execute?